So whenever you look up anything to do with the ego in order to find out more about it, you'll usually find the guy who coined the term ego, who is Sigmund Freud, who split this into 3 parts, which I'm not going to get into that at the moment, but I'll leave up a description so you can read his views on that yourself. For the sake of this video, I'm just going to be talking about the ego in general. So basically, what actually is the ego? What is your ego? So the ego is basically your identity, or your false identity that you've created in order to fit into society. It's the wee voice in your head, but right now you might be thinking, what wee voice? Well, that one. Some people don't even realise that there's a wee voice in their head constantly narrating and coming up with stories throughout their whole entire life. It's basically a biological survival mechanism, and if it wasn't for that, your species probably wouldn't be where we actually are today. So the ego isn't actually your intentions or your thoughts in general. It's the reflexive mechanism that basically attaches onto the intentions and thoughts, and therefore believes that it actually is the thoughts. Basically, it's how we mentally label ourselves. The ego basically believes, I am what I do, I am what I have, I am what other people think of me, I am what I think of myself. And this is usually based off of people's beliefs or their past. The ego believes that it's separate for everybody and everything, and because of this we can experience suffering, and it takes us away from enjoying the purity of the exact moment that's happening around about us all the time. The ego isn't necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, it just is. In other words, like, you basically need your ego in order to look up videos like this or to listen to what I'm saying. I need it to plan the video, and I need my ego right now kinda to talk to you or talk to this camera. The ego is always going to exist. It basically survives in the past or the future. See, a lot of people basically judge themselves based off of their past experiences, things that have happened to them in the past, and this can be damaging if you're trying to say move forward in the future, and you can't, because you're scared in case your past is going to repeat itself. Now this can be the opposite, where it can be something good happened to you in the past, therefore you say, well, I'll do that again. It could come down to that saying again, where it's like, thinking of the future can cause anxiety, and dwelling on the past can cause you to be depressed. It's like that whole thing again. See, the ego can actually make you feel better than people, or it can make you feel worse than people, depending on where you come from, how rich you are, what your role is in society, and what your occupation is compared to other people. A lot of people think the ego is like a kind of a vain thing, where you say, oh, that guy's got a big ego, or she's got a big ego, when a lot of the time you can have it can very well be that you don't feel as good as somebody else, you feel inferior to somebody, or you feel superior to them. Some people are either confident or they're unconfident. I mean, there's people in the middle, but a lot of the time you can have, let's just call it a low self-esteem ego compared to a high self-esteemed ego. It's the ego, but you're not actually your thoughts. So millions of years ago, us Homo sapiens gained the ability to come up with thinking and communication skills, which helped us basically take over the globe. We communicated in higher numbers, we could learn more complex ways of hunting. We then started building villages, towns, kingdoms, cities, whatever. They then became nations. We then developed nationalities, to which we strongly identify with nowadays, like I'm Scottish, I'm English, I'm this, I'm that. Same thing with ideologies, or coming up with religious ideas, or certain people would stay in certain villages, they would have their own beliefs based off of what somebody come up with, and then say in the next village across from them they'd believe in a different thing, and whatever you believed in you would go to and fight against the opposition. We went through the agricultural revolution to the scientific revolution, the industrial revolution, and this is all because of the ego. And then because of the numbers got so big, in order to control people, there was things invented such as money, which is a religion that everybody believes in. Then there was the beginning of advertisement, like whether it's consumerism, in other words telling people or making people believe that if they buy a certain type of car, it will make them feel a certain way, or it will give them maybe a stronger or higher sense of identity, or buying the newest brands of clothes that's out would make you fit into a certain type of category of person. And the thing is, this still goes on today. Now, some people can have it all and still feel miserable, and then you get the opposite side of that coin, where people might be looking to these people that supposedly have all of these kind of things, but yet they feel worthless because they maybe can't afford these things, and therefore this caused a massive case of depression back then. So our egos have made us become the controllers of the world, whether or not that's a good thing or not, because I mean, if it didn't happen, then I wouldn't even be here right now. Do you know what I mean? You probably wouldn't exist yourself. Probably, because I would exist and they wouldn't. That makes perfect sense. Our egos have basically made us the controllers of the world, to the point where we basically view ourselves as higher up than, say, an animal. We're probably the only species in the world that questions things and has these insecurities and stuff like that. I mean, this is still going on to this day, this whole consumerism stuff and people falling into these things. Nothing wrong with buying stuff and you treat yourself to things, but when people don't get the latest phone that's out or the latest motor or something like that, they start to feel more they're not as good as maybe the other person across the street because they can't keep up to date with affording these things, or whether it's wearing branded clothes, maybe you're into stuff like that, materialistic things, but you can't actually afford it, and because of that it makes your sense of self feel not as good as somebody else who maybe can afford it. See, the ego's always wanting stuff in order to fulfill its happiness, or it's looking for the next moment because it believes that the next moment, in other words living in the future, is going to be better than this moment. It's never really settled. It always exists through wanting stuff, and then when you have the things, you want something else. If you're stuck in the egoic mind, then you're never going to experience this moment, which is completely free of ego, free of desires and selfless needs, that kind of stuff. For example, think about this, right? So, how many times have you been at your work, and when you're at your work, you're thinking, I can't wait to get home from work. So then you finally finish and then you're happy, then you're on the bus home or you're driving home, but your mind's still kind of occupied thinking about when it gets home, I'm going to be having my dinner, I'll be doing this, I'll be doing that. Then you get home, you're making your dinner, you're just wishing that your dinner was ready so that you can be eating it. You're looking forward to that next moment to be eating your dinner. Then when you're eating your dinner, you're watching the telly, you're kind of half in eating your dinner, half in concentrating on what's on the telly. Then when it comes to going to sleep, you're thinking about stuff, and what did I do earlier, what was I doing at my work, and if this ever happens I'll do this, and if this situation ever arrives. Then before you know it, you wake up and you're going, I need to go to work. Then you find yourself in work again, basically saying, I wish I was home for work so I can relax. But are you really ever relaxing, because you're always stuck in your head? Just a weird way to explain it, but I hope that makes sense. It's like we're always looking for stuff outside ourselves, but that'll never happen, because the thing is, it's already inside us, that inner peace. So what really are we deep down? What actually are we? Are we the thinking mind? Which I personally don't believe, judging through different books and experiences I've had. The reason why I say what I believe, I strongly believe it, is because you can't say anything these days. It's like, this is the actual right answer. There's so many people that will disagree with you and stuff like that, but I like to look at it as being, once you experience it for yourself, you'll know what I'm talking about. So, first of all, like, the good thing about having an ego is the fact that we've got a choice to then enter the egoless state, or because we've got thoughts or the thinking mind, we can use them to achieve a state of no mind or no thoughts. Now, there's different ways that people have achieved these states, whether it's through the most obvious ones like meditation or yoga, whether it's dream yoga, present moment awareness, or partaking in psychedelic experiences. Meditation, the way I like to explain through meditation, is that it takes you beyond the thinking mind. That's the whole point. You start to become aware of your thoughts to the point where, because you're now aware of them, you're not becoming identified with every single thought that comes into your mind. You don't become latched onto it. You simply become the silent witness and presence, or you can call it, you become the observer. The reason being because you're in a state of awareness and you see the thoughts actually start and end, whereas usually you would just become the thought and keep going with it, keep going with that thought. So you're like the silent witness and presence, or you could say what you really are deep down, you are the awareness that shines through or beyond thought. You're the higher state of consciousness beyond the thinking mind. Consciousness doesn't need thought to exist, but thought needs consciousness to exist. I'm sure that was Eckhart Tolle that said that. So you can call it presence as well. When you sit down, you enter stillness, you become still, you become present, you become aware, you become the silent witness and presence, the observer. These are all different kind of things. Whenever a thought appears, goes away, then there's a gap, there's a spaciousness, there's a space and isness. And then another thought appears. In between the thoughts, that space, that's who you are, that awareness that doesn't require the thinking mind. So by practicing things like meditation and present moment awareness, which I've made a video on meditation, which I'll leave a link in the description box, and I plan on making one on present moment awareness or mindfulness living, in other words living in the moment just during the day, whether it's on your way to work in the morning, so you don't always need to be sitting down in a meditative position. So by actually practicing these things, you'll start to realise when it's not necessarily to kill your ego, it's to realise and recognise whenever the ego is being more judgmental, or when you're feeling personally hurt, you realise that it's just your identity that's feeling attacked. how dare that person say me to me? This is all actually the ego. It starts to make you become aware of your own selfish desires, or when other people maybe try to hurt your feelings, whether it's at work or something like that, you just know how to deal with it better because you know it's all in the mind, and by you falling into that mind state, it's going to cause suffering. So it makes you become aware of these things, and it could be something like, you might not be the kind of person that gets angry at other people, or people might not get to you, but you might be angry with yourself. Things will annoy you if you turn up late for things or whatever. You start to recognise that this is all wee voice in my head that's constantly doing all this, but it's not until you start to wake up and realise that, I'm not saying that I'm woke or anything, but you start to realise that there is a wee voice in my head right now, just always kind of narrating everything that I do. And sometimes it's very unuseful. It's not useful at all. There's obviously a time and a place for thinking. Practical matters, there's a time and a place for that. But don't just have it going on all the time. Now obviously this can take practice, because it's like if you try to stop biting your nails, I'm just using an example of me here, and somebody says to you when they know you're trying to stop it, and before you know it you're biting your nails, and they say you're biting your nails, and then you realise, oh, so it's because you're that used to thinking, you've grew up your whole life like this, so it's not going to happen overnight, but you'll start to see a difference, you'll start to feel better, happier, more connected to the world, you're more connected to the universe, your true self, your essence, the awareness, the silence, the quietness inside you. You become more in tune with that. It's almost like you're watching yourself walk about, as if you're like a wee person inside your head looking through and seeing another body moving, because you tap into that higher awareness that's free of all this usual suffering that's caused by the mind. And this can be extremely helpful with anxiety and depression. Not that it's going to completely cure it, but it will definitely help, more than anything else I can think about. So I plan on making more videos to do with consciousness, reaching that higher state of consciousness, whether it's through lucid dreaming, meditative practices, philosophies, and other things in the future. But at the moment, just try your best to free yourself from the culturally conditioned, egotistical mindset that we've all got. It's not going to go away, not if you're living in an ego society, but to make it more tame and understand more how you're, as a person, reacting to things, or reacting to what other people are throwing at you. This makes a massive difference to your overall well-being. So if you like the video, like, share with anybody you think this could help. I'm open to constructive criticism. If I've missed anything that you think would be important that I can maybe add in a future video, let me know, and subscribe if you want to see more similar content like this. Have a good day, man. Take care.